Okay, here I am live. I'm trying to get this. Oh, good Lord. Foamy black box thing I have so that my mic sits in front of it. That is very precarious. In case you don't know, I recently moved. We have not had time to set up my office slash YouTube studio because we got custody of my husband's teenage boys and their needs come first. So it's going to be a while before I get things set up. Anyway, I've done a recorded video about the Summer Wells case, and then I also did a couple of videos about other missing children in the Tennessee area, and I did a live stream. So I'm doing another live stream giving some more of my thoughts because there's so much about this case to unpack, and I hope I sound okay. I'm doing the best I can given the situation here. First of all, I do want to say I listed a bunch of channels that are covering the case and have been covering the case since day one in the description. And they're channels that I listen to. I try to listen to as many of these as I possibly can. Oftentimes, I don't know about you guys, but I fall asleep listening to some channels, not because I'm bored, but because, I enjoy hearing about this stuff. And then I just, relax and drift off to sleep. So, and I'm working during the day, so it's not like I can, listen to stuff then. Exactly. Anyway, tonight the interview room is doing another, and I can't remember the guy's name. It's Steve something another, doing a second part with him. If you have not watched any of his interviews, I urge you to do so. He's highly trained. Lots of things come out, and I'm not saying, is most people, we're not saying one person is guilty or two people are guilty or, exactly what happened. Because honestly, nobody really knows exactly what happened. But we're all vested in this case, and we all want this little girl to be found, no matter what the condition may be. And at this point, honestly, I'm not thinking it's going to be pleasant. Au contraire. Au contraire. And the thing is, when I look at this family, and maybe you have the same feeling as I do, but it just really seems like dysfunction junction. I mean, there's just so much, so much. And before I really get into some of the things that I want to talk about, I do have a couple of things scrolling at the bottom. One is for Tennessee State Resources for people who have gone through domestic abuse. And the other one is an organization. And if we have time, there's a document by Darkness to Light that I found that's about SA, childhood SA, that I think is important to look at some of these stats and stuff. And I will be going over that with you. But I do suspect that Candus knows something. And, I do also think that it's time for her to step up. If you are new to my channel and you don't know what I do, mostly I do multi-level marketing. And this week I have a video about Sebastian Greenwood coming out. Sebastian Greenwood was a co-founder for a cryptocurrency multi-level marketing company called One Life, One Coin. If you've heard about the missing crypto queen, well, I mean, basically he was kind of like her partner in crime, literally, and putting all this together. Because I do some white collar crime stuff too, because I'm always, very interested in the scammy stuff people are doing. I am in the middle of editing another video about Beachbody. I'm a former Beachbody coach, just so you know, in case you don't know. So those are some things coming out. But right now, with everything I have going on, doing some live streams is just easier. And because the boys are sleeping right now, guess what? I can do something early in the morning because I'm usually editing or researching at this time. But since they're sleeping right now, it's just easier for me to do live streams. And quite frankly, I have to go with what's easy for me right now. I hope you can understand that. Well, hello. I'm not sure how to say your name, Kansies. Thank you so much for joining. So I'm just going to start talking about some things that I found I don't have like everything verbatim. So if I don't say it exactly how it's said, I mean, just know it. I'm trying to get the flavor. But some of the things that Dawn has said alarm bells go off. Now, so that you know, I am a survivor of SA. And one of the things that has bothered me, there is I would say, a fairly large channel that this person, and she's gotten a lot of press, but doesn't want to hear Trish's interview. Trish is Dawn's niece who came out and said that, she dealt with SA with him. And I'm just going to say, as someone who has survived this too, no one just comes out with a story just because they hate someone. I mean, and I want to say it was on the interview room that talked about moments of trauma. And when Candus and Chris were down by the water at the swimming hole, and she said something about, like time slowing down. For myself, I mean, I can think back, and there are particular instances surrounding what I went through that, I mean, are crystal clear in my memory, just crystal clear. And so I think about that, and I think about Trish coming forward, and I'm like, people don't want to remember this stuff, People don't want this to be true, but when it's a part of you, you remember it. And I think that she was very brave for coming forward and talking about it, because I think it's very pertinent in this case overall. And I find it very disturbing. So anyway, some of the things that Dawn has said, and Candus, if you are listening, I really do think this is the time for you to come forward, because if you have dealt with any type of domestic abuse or whatever you have been through within that household, there are resources for you. And I do have a website for Tennessee that's scrolling across. And I also have a resource for, childhood SC, darkness to light. So there's a couple of things right there. So anyway, some things that Donald has said is the whole thing when he called her, I think it was the first interview that they did together, and he referred to her as an awesome young lady. Who refers to a 5-year-old child as a young lady? I mean, who? Now, I'm a former classroom teacher, and I've taught 3-year-olds all the way through college. And I can think of probably the middle school kids. I would be like, okay, young lady, time to do whatever. I mean, I probably said that. Don't really remember, but I probably did. But for someone who's 5 years old, it just, especially for a parent, it just seems odd. Just seems odd. I don't know what you think about that, but it seems odd to me. And another thing that just seemed off was the whole thing where John said something about how he played with her hair every night. And then they just add into the fact that this child was sleeping in her parents' bed every night. That's just odd. It makes me uncomfortable. It seems dangerous, especially given what we know about Dawn's past. You know what I mean? It just seems really suspect, and it really makes me uncomfortable knowing that. Also, and I want to say it was in Chris's interview where he was talking about how he told Candus to basically like always watch Summer because that's my baby. And the way that he said it, his emphasis on, that like that's his baby. Well, it's his daughter, yeah. But I mean, it just struck me as odd because there seemed to be an uncomfortable closeness. And maybe I'm, projecting on it. I don't know. What do you think about that? It just really seems so strange to me. And I would say, what else? Oh, let me see. What else do I have in my notes? The whole thing that he told Candus to watch her, and he knew something would happen. How in the heck does anybody know anything is going to happen to their child? Because people in general are not thinking of tragedy. I have a very good friend of mine whose child at the age of 20, I want to say it was on New Year's Day, and she woke up and found him no longer living in their home. No one's thinking that that's what's going to happen, you know? So how is it that Donald is like, he always knew something was going to happen? It just seems suspect to me. How do you know? Unless you have some insider information or something. It's just kind of where my mind goes. I don't know about yours. I'm having my morning coffee. So if I stop and pause, it's because I'm sipping coffee. I don't know if you guys drink coffee, but I do. Oh, and I guess something else that made me uncomfortable too is this whole thing about how Don has never loved someone or been loved by someone as much as when it comes to Summer. And when I hear these things and when I hear how he talks about her, to me, it does not sound like a father talking about a child. It sounds more like a love interest to me, because it just is. I've never heard anybody talk like that about their very young child. Summer is only 5. I don't know when her birthday is, but 5-year-old girl, little girl, beautiful little girl. But it's just all so odd. And I think he also said that Summer was the light of his life. Now imagine being married to this man and hearing him say all these things about, the child. And there you are, the wife. It's like, well, what am I, chopped liver? It's kind of weird. So I can imagine that there would be some animosity that Candus would feel. I also kind of wondered this, because we do know that there's substance abuse going on within this household, which also makes me highly uncomfortable. Not that I'm an angel, because I'm not. But I mean, I'm not doing anything like that. I have wine and what do you call them? What is it? Angry Orchards. I drink Angry Orchards because I like those. My husband is a wine director, so hence we have wine around. But I want to say, I know what I wanted to say. Last night, I don't know if you saw Unmasked interview, and it was with one of Dawn's sisters, and I think it was Mary. I honestly, I can't remember the name. I'm sorry, because I just found it as I was like going to sleep, and so I was listening to it. And somebody in the audience asked if Dawn had dealt with SA, and that's something that I had wondered too. And this person didn't know, because we do know that overall this is learned behavior. And Dawn's stepfather, from Dawn's description, said that his stepfather didn't love him like he did, like the sisters, and sent him away. And allegedly the sisters dealt with SA. And so it always did make me wonder, is that what kind of kicked off this whole thing for Dawn? That's the way that an inappropriate way to show love. And I do wonder about Candus and her background, her family background, Hey, Grumpus, how are you doing? I wonder, Candus, Grandma Candus, within that whole family structure, what was going on? Did Candus undergo any kind of abuse as a child, SA or otherwise? Because here's the thing, typically, and I'm generalizing, you do end up connecting with someone who's much like, your father or your mother. I mean, that's kind of a thing. And, it's funny as I think about that. And like my husband, this is my second husband, he's very much like my dad was. Very, very much. Reminds me a lot of him in so many different ways. And before that, people that I was attracted to, a lot were like my stepfather, who was not a nice person. That's just like putting it mildly. So I just kind of wonder what kind of relationships Candus had in the past, and the attraction to Dawn, and what is keeping there, because he does seem highly controlling, which makes me worried for Candus overall, because I want to know how much control does he have over her? Because, when you're dealing with that type of relationship, there is a fear about leaving, and she may have that because I don't think she works. I don't know if she's worked throughout their marriage and they just decided she was going to stay home. I don't really know what happened with all of that. But she may be worried about, well, how am I going to provide for my three boys, if I were to leave Dawn? And that's why I put up, there are some resources. There are resources out there, Candace, if you hear this, that can help you. Now, does that mean that she would get off scot-free? Probably not. Obviously, I'm not a police officer. I'm not anybody, like that. But if she had anything to do with whatever happened, I would think she would be held accountable. But if she actually provides information about what did happen, I think it would be lesser than by holding out. You know what I mean? It's like, you're not going to be totally forgiven, but you're not going to get the worst either. And I really think that she owes it to her child to come forth and say, this is really what happened. What do you guys think about that? Tia, you feel for Candace too? I do. I really feel for Candace. And, myself, and I mentioned this in my last live stream, my stepfather basically separated my mom from all of her friends and isolated her. And I see Candace, and when she said something about how she basically really doesn't interact with anybody, outside of the family, like her family structure. And it made me kind of feel like, has she been intentionally isolated from people? And I know we have the whole Jose thing and we have the Allie thing and stuff, but it doesn't seem like she has a lot of friends, which makes me really sad for her. And some of the things that I'm really worried about with her right now is, since the kids aren't around, I mean, what is she doing with herself all day long? Is Dawn going off to work and she's just left there at Ben Hill Road alone, mentally dealing with whatever happened, possibly doing more substances to try to squash the pain? I mean, I don't really know what's going on, and I don't know what their conversations have been during this time. But if he's as controlling as I suspect he is, I would think there could be some sort of threats within all of that. And, leaving someone who is abusive is not easy. It's really not easy. It's similar to, okay, Grumps just said, this struck me as similar to JonBenet Ramsey. Family is picking the wagons. Yeah. I'm going to cut here so I can put that up there. Yeah. I feel like that too, because they're really circling around and keeping things very, very, very guarded. But, until somebody actually opens their mouth and says, the story that we've been saying isn't the truth. Circling. Okay. Circling. All right. Yeah. We're not going to really find out. And we don't know what law enforcement is withholding, but we do know they're withholding stuff, and rightfully so. But the public, people like me, people like you, because you're here, we're all very interested in what happened. Again, because there's so many different layers to this case. There's poverty, there's substance abuse, there's SA, there's isolation. There's just so much. But I am concerned that Candus is dealing with more mental abuse now that the kids are gone, and she just, has, I guess, Dawn around her, because she does need other people. And my understanding, and perhaps I'm wrong, but what I have heard, so allegedly people in the church have kind of like backed away, understandably so, because I mean, this is a whole great big suck bucket. I mean, not much fun dealing with any of this. But Candus needs support. She needs an organization to step in and help her. And I know that Rose Meyer was trying to raise money through a GoFundMe account for Candus, allegedly. And allegedly, they went and bought, $1,000 cell phones. Allegedly, these are things I just heard. I don't know how much truth there is to it, so I'm not saying it is truth. Just things that I have heard. And one of the things that also struck me, and this is where I'm going back into what Candus has dealt with, is when Dawn said that Candus apologized for the October charges that she brought against him. And that is something abused women do, is they take the blame themselves. And that bothers me a lot. And there was something Candus said about Summer. I want to say it was in the first interview. And she said, nobody would treat her like that. And my question is, like what? Like how? Because she didn't specify. Nobody would treat her like that as long as I'm around. What do you mean, Candus? How was she being treated? Who was treating her in a particular way? Makes me uncomfortable. So much about this makes me uncomfortable, Dawn has repeatedly talked about, and this is just, I see a lot of my stepfather in him, that they want to surround themselves with good people. What do you mean by good people? And I think he means about people who are SDA members. So it's like everybody else is just bad and horrible unless you're an SDA member. I wonder if they would say that about him, that he's a good person. I really kind of wonder that. And I'm not saying he's good or bad. I think Dawn has a lot of skeletons and a lot of things that we do know, a lot of things probably we don't know. And I think he has a lot of issues, a whole lot of issues. But it's really odd to me how he wants to be viewed as being good. And I can kind of get it, because don't we all want to be thought of as good people? I mean, nobody wants to be thought of as a crappy person, right? And maybe he did deal with something as a child and as a young adult, because we do know from what Trish said that things that he started at a very young age, weren't so good. And in the interview from Unmasked last night, it was revealed something that I didn't know, is how early on in his life, and she said she did too, that they were basically getting high together, and all the different other types of drugs that he got involved in. Oh, hey, Caffeinated Angel, how are you, sweetheart? Okay. And so she says his definition of good people is probably just those who won't disagree with or challenge him. And yeah, that's something that's so interesting, is anybody who challenges him, all of a sudden they're like on the hit list, so to speak, It's like, well, maybe if you're actually truthful and you come out and you actually say what's going on instead of all these, this tap dancing that he's doing. Because I find it so interesting, if you guys are watching like the Interview Room, and I listen to AB at night, True Crime Rocket Science. I listen to all of his things. I was introduced to True Crime Rocket Science for the Shanann Watts case, and I've covered that case, but from the multi-level marketing perspective, since that's my background. And so I've added in things about that most people, unless you've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, rode the pony, all of that, you don't really know about. And so that's what I have done. And True Crime Rocket Science really dissects things. He's written, I can't remember how many books about true crime, but I listen to his stuff because I find it very fascinating. And I really like the way that he's very, very analytical. And that's the thing with all of these cases, is that you need to try to be as, and we're human beings, we're all going to have emotions. This is a highly volatile type case. But to analyze it, you've got to somehow become neutral and try to look at what are the facts. And so even though I have things in my background, I'm still looking at, well, what do we know that this person has been through, what's been going on, and what can we possibly kind of like pick out from that that would be related, or that would make sense in connecting dots. You know what I mean? But I do want to know what Candus meant by nobody would treat her like that. Like what, Candus? How was Summer being treated? Why is Summer missing? That's the big thing. Why is Summer not around? Why is she not playing outside? Why is she not on her swing? Why do we not know where Summer is? We need to know. She needs to be found. Oh, let me put this on screen. So Grandpa says, it seems when religious people abuse children, they hide behind their religion. They will also say good people, meaning people from their church that are willing to cover up what happened. And, I think that's fair to say. I think oftentimes when there is a high degree of belief system involved, that is a shield, that is a way to deflect anything, because it's like, well, look how great I am. I do the good things. So since I do these good things, that means therefore I am good, which is oftentimes not the case. And with Don, I think he has fallen back into that, I think, far too often, because it doesn't pass my sniff test. I don't know about you. It does not pass it. And something else that has not passed it is, like all of a sudden, all of these posts that he made, and he made a lot of posts that had religious connotations in it, and those were all removed. And he put up a bazillion pictures of Summer, which I'm glad that we have more pictures of Summer, but it's like, why did you remove all of that? Because don't you think, law enforcement already has screenshots of all that stuff? I mean, and as do other creators, tons of screenshots of all that stuff. It's not like it's going to be deleted and hidden from it forever. It's out there. You're just trying to, I guess, clean up perception. But, when the perception of who you are is so dirty and so murky and muddy, it's kind of hard to get out that, scrub brush and soap and start cleaning. People see right past that. And I think, you guys probably see past it. I know I do. And, I'm also the kind of person is like, when I do my research about multi-level marketing companies, especially like the people who start them and top tier hunbots and stuff, I don't want to not like these people. I don't go into it like, well, I just hate you automatically. I want to get to know who they are. I don't want to dislike Dawn. I don't want to dislike Candus. I don't want to just dislike someone. But when I listen to the nonsense coming out of that man's mouth, I'm like, oh, oi and they, puppy, stop. Just please stop. And it seems like he's always trying to self-correct. And, we're going to remember what you said in law enforcement, most definitely is, they have your statements and stuff. And there's a reason why Candus has done multiple lie detector tests. It's not because, they're not persons of interest. The law enforcement would be saying, yeah, there's no suspects, there's no persons of interest. Well, they're not going to just do lie detector tests for the fun of it. I mean, when was the last time that somebody just knocked on your door and said, hey, let's take this lie detector test? Only people that, are suspected of something, some sort of involvement, tend to have lie detector tests taken, At least that's what I can tell. Maybe you have a different opinion. What else did I want to talk about? Because it's getting close to me needing to wrap up a bit. Something I did talk about, I guess, in my last live stream, and I would like to know what you guys think of this, because one of the things that has rattled into my little brain, it goes back to Summer's sleeping arrangements. I mean, when Chris interviewed Candus, she made a point to show us how, like, this is where Summer sleeps. And I looked at where that child was to be sleeping, and it just seemed like the saddest little area. Um, and that's something that bothers me. It's like, if Dawn knows how to build, why is there plywood, for the floor upstairs and just concrete up there? It just, all of it just seems so odd. But I kind of wonder if Candus was dealing with any kind of abuse from Dawn, and Summer became some sort of a shield for her, that if she was in the bed, maybe then Candus didn't have to deal with particular things. I don't know. I'm just kind of like wondering and questioning out loud. I don't know if you guys have thought about things like that or not, but it really kind of makes me wonder what was going, that those dynamics with that is, I'll just say, different and concerning, very different, very concerning. I'm nearly out of my coffee. And when I finish my coffee, I'm going to have to get down on the go-go, because I do have other things that I need to do. Tonight, I do hope you guys listen. I'm not sure what time the interview room's second interview with, I would think it's Steve, is going to be tonight. I never know what time people are coming on. If I subscribe to them and I want to hear the things, I just hit the bell and I'm like, okay, when you go live, I'll know. And sometimes I catch it like later. It's like not right there at that red hot moment. And I'm okay with that. But I generally, there are people that I want to listen to about this case. Now, there are people that I don't want to listen to, and it's the apologists about this. The apologist channels really annoy me. Anyone who is making the claim that, like, well, there's no proof of what Trish went through. There's a lot of people that don't report things that happen to them because there's a lot of shame and guilt and other things associated with all of that. Hi, Sky. How are you doing? So that annoys me, that this channel was like, well, there's no proof, but you're just going to believe whatever nonsense comes out of Dawn's mouth and take that as fact and run with it. But what anybody else says, that's all hearsay. That's a bunch of bunk. Big old bucket of hooey on that one, as far as I'm concerned. For Trish to come forward and say stuff, that took gumption. That took guts. A lot of them. Now, if you are not familiar with the timeline, which is changing as often as the wind blows, it's a crime. She has done 2 different timelines, and she's updating the timeline as more information comes out. And so that may be helpful for you. Also, she did interview Chris McDonough, who he is, and I may not be saying his last name correctly, so sorry about that. He is the guy that runs the channel, The Interview Room, and he's in Tennessee right now, gathering details. And I don't remember what his position is exactly with a cold case organization, which I'm probably going to get that wrong, but he is involved with that, and he's a former law enforcement dude. And so I really have enjoyed the guests that he has had on and giving us things to think about, because the bottom line is that we want Summer to be found. And I do think Candus knows something. And I do think she needs to come forward. I had a dream last night. Candus was in my dream. Isn't that weird? And I was actually giving her that support and encouragement, because I don't want her to feel like she just shouldn't say anything, because if she's being threatened by Dawn in any way. I don't know if that's happening. I would not be surprised. But there are resources for her. And I'm sure law enforcement would help her as well. And again, she may still face something. Don't know what that is. Don't know the involvement exactly, because we don't have the full story. We have the story that they want us to think is true. We don't have the truth. Not yet. And I don't know when we'll have that. And because we don't have that, we're all sitting around here going, well, what could have possibly have happened? Because none of it adds up. And when things don't add up, people are going to start trying to, take those puzzle pieces and put them together in some way that it makes sense, because it's illogical right now. It does not make any kind of sense that that child, because remember this, Candus said those boys were locked in the home, no one in, no one out. But somehow, when Summer is there, there's a way for her to get out. Isn't that a little bit odd? And why? Why? I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Wyatt is the eldest of the boys, and he's what, 12 or 13? Why would you leave 3 kids alone, isolated in the middle of nowhere? Literally, if something happened, how would they get help? That bothers me that they were alone. But then it's also said, oh, they went with Dawn. I mean, it's like there's so many inconsistencies. So many. It's like, if you had a scorecard for all of it, you'd like run out of space. There's so many inconsistencies. But it doesn't make any sense to me that Summer could somehow get out, but those boys, no one in, no one out. How is both things possible, Candus? Let us know. Please, please find a way to get the truth out there. And if she has a new phone, I don't know, maybe is there an app where her husband would be able to tell, who she's called, or text messages to track everything that she's doing? And is that a reason why maybe she doesn't say anything? Has she not been allowed to drive any of the other vehicles? Because we know Dawn has taken, her red car. Is she just, isolated there with no way to contact anyone? I don't know. But these are things I think about. And if there is someone who knows her and you can get to her, please do. Please help her see that she needs to just tell the absolute truth. Because I think she knows more than what she's saying. I don't think it went down as she's saying. It just doesn't feel right. Anyway, I will probably do another live stream, especially after Chris's next interview and stuff, and maybe give more thoughts. Maybe listen to it with you guys and kind of like stop and give my 2 cents along the way or something. I don't know. Let me know if that would be of interest to you. Put that in the comments. But I'm going to get down on the go-go so I can prepare for my work day. Thank you so very much for popping on and, being here with me and, letting me ramble on about my thoughts, because this is just a case. I just can't let go of this, I just can't just move on. It is just haunting. And there's so many other cases out there, so many others, but this one, for whatever reason, it's gripped us, Yeah, it would be a live react, Grumpus. Yeah, because it's not going to be recorded, because it's just very hard for me doing that right now, given our recent move and everything. So yes. So anyway, I am going to get down on the go-go. Thank you so much again for being here. I appreciate it. And remember, you're beautiful and I love you.